Hello and welcome back to the farm. Well, in an unusual twist after Thanksgiving, all the snow melted and it got back up to about 60 degrees. So I took the opportunity to rake my front yard, which I didn't get to do before it started snowing. Once that task was done, it was right off to the farm. This weather is very much like spring, and one of the reasons I dislike spring is because of all the mud. However, with all the pumpkins that I dropped off last week, the deer have been having quite a feast. There are deer tracks literally everywhere. My main reason for coming to the farm today, though, was to continue on with that project that I started a couple weeks ago, and that is clearing the land bridge that separates the two ponds toward the middle of my property. Now, I grabbed my trusty Echo chainsaw and I geared up because I knew that there was going to be water and mud everywhere. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any relief to this water or mud until the spring and the summer heat. So I went all the way down to the end of the farmer's path by the pond. I took a left-hand turn and I meandered my way into the entrance of the tractor path. Now this is all very much overgrown still, and I do need to clear this and smooth this. You can see tractor tire tracks, however, when there's no snow and when the ground is fairly flat and dry. So you know that this is definitely a well-used path. However, you can't really see anything now because of the overgrowth. So after I get the camera cleared off and situated, I'm going to continue on cutting some of this brush. Unfortunately, most of this brush here at the very beginning of the path is all prickers. And if you remember from any of my videos when I started clearing the front field, I absolutely hate these prickers. They're about 7 feet tall and it's just knotted. You can't pull one because they're all connected together. Once some of those were cleared, however, it was a matter of moving on down the path and trying to clear some of the saplings and the other junk that has grown up over the years. Now, my neighbor did tell me that this path used to be completely flat, completely clear. There was a bed of stones that covered it from the start to the finish, and there was absolutely no vegetation. As you can see, that's not the case anymore. Another contributing problem to the current state of this path appears to be beavers. So from the left-hand side of the screen, which is the level of my pond, to the lower right-hand side of the screen, which is the neighboring pond, is about 6 feet. That should not be the case. These two ponds should be perfectly level. However, it seems like beavers have dammed up a lot of the area toward the left-hand side of the screen. And that all needs to be cleared out eventually. As I walk down this path, I can just see layer after layer building up various layers of twigs and branches and trees that looks like they've been placed there. Nothing that has just fallen or grown that way. Another thing to notice is the puddles that appear toward the center of the screen here. It's actually not a puddle, that's water flow from the left-hand side of the screen, which is my pond, down toward the pond on the right-hand side. Again, if these two ponds were level, that would not be occurring, and this would just be a perfectly dry, flat path. So another reason why this path needs to be cleared, eventually leveled, and the water needs to be managed a little bit. We're going to get to that in a second, though. Dealing with this tractor path has been on my to-do list since literally last winter, the very first time I ever snowshoed on this property. There was no way at that time to get from the front side of the property to the back side, and this land bridge should have been that one way. I ended up having to snowshoe across neighbors' properties on the far side of the property to get to the back acreage, the back forest. So this year, I want to make sure that this is situated well in time for me to come out here, snowshoe, and be able to get to the back acreage of my property. cut into this land bridge are 2 or 3 drainage ditches that go from my pond, which is now on the right hand side of the screen from this current view, to the left hand side of the screen. And inside those ditches I noticed lots and lots of branches. So as I started pulling these branches out of the drainage ditch, I noticed that they were all intertwined. So clearly beavers have been damming this area. As I pull stick after stick, the beaver dam starts to break open and water begins to flow. And this is very good because the water in my pond is very, very high. So I figured I'd just grab a branch and start raking some of this debris down the drainage ditch with the hopes that the force of the water would start to help and clear it out. And sure enough, it did. Water really started flowing. There was an even bigger problem off to the right hand side of the screen, which we're going to tackle in a second. But once I start moving some of these branches out of the way that the beavers dammed up, you can really see, if I zoom in, all that water that's flowing. Now that's about a 1.5 foot drainage ditch. So this is the next area. This drainage ditch is about 3.5 feet wide, and it should be an actual ditch, but as you can see, there's a lot more of the branches. So once again, I just grabbed sticks and I started raking things out of the way. And as I started moving things, water started flowing. And this is fantastic. This is very satisfying. This is what I want to see happen. I want to get all the junk out of the way. And as I start to move stuff out of the way, the force of the water should come in and start pushing stuff away. There's a gigantic grouping of twigs nearest to the camera, and I figured once I started to pry that open, the water would really start flowing. And sure enough, that was the case. These things are really wedged in there. The beavers really do an amazing job of building these dams, but once it started to break up, look at that flow of water. I'm hoping that the level of my pond will drop feet over the coming days and hopefully weeks. I need to come in and really dig this out a little bit more. I need to actually bring a tool in to do it. I have a couple tools just for this purpose. But using a couple sticks and over the course of maybe 5 minutes of work, check out this water flow. It's a raging river now. This is excellent. This will really help with the springtime flooding. Various areas on my property get very, very wet if the level of this pond isn't maintained at a low level. So hopefully my property will be nice and dry come spring. But once all of this was cleared up and I made it to the other side of the property, this is my back 15 acres. This is the pine forest where I took all those beautiful snowy shots last week. And now if I spin around, I have a path straight down the land bridge from one end to another. Of course, there's a lot of water draining at the second, but this is going to be perfect for snowshoeing. This is exactly the reason why I wanted to tackle this project, both to create a path for snowshoeing and hopefully to address some of the water damming issues. So both of those have been satisfied. This was an excellent use of a couple hours of my day today. Don't get me wrong though, this project is by no means finished. It's just finished for now. Come spring, I want to come back through here and cut down all the trees on the left hand side of the screen, cut down all the stumps on the right hand side of the screen, clear up some of this brush, and really try and deal with the stacks of twigs and branches that the beavers left and clean this all up, hopefully getting several channels of better water flow. But the fact that I'm able to walk end to end right now is something that, since I've owned this property, I have not been able to do. This is a great accomplishment, even though it seems like such a minor thing. For the coming winter months, having this path through here will just enhance the enjoyment. Needless to say, I'm soaked, I'm muddy, but my feet are somehow dry. I'm going to do a review of these pants and these boots in a coming video because these things are amazing. I was up to probably over my ankles in water just now, and I'm still dry. But on my walk back, I figured the chainsaw was running. I might as well deal with some of this deadfall, both from the snowstorm and stuff that was just hanging out on the path all through the summer. So I took about 10 or 15 minutes, and I chopped up a whole bunch of sections of logs. I took down a couple leaning trees, and I cleared the path a little bit better than it was. There's a whole lot of this throughout my entire property. There's no way that I could address all of this deadfall and all of these trees that have fallen over in any sort of reasonable amount of time. But if I chip away at it and do 2 or 3 each time I'm at the farm, eventually things will be cleared up. Just in time for more trees to fall or branches to fall. It's a never-ending process. I guess when you own woods and wooded acreage, the maintenance of this stuff is never-ending. Once I made it out of the path and back to civilization, I put the chainsaw away, got it all tidied up, wrapped up, ready to be cleaned when I get home. And I wanted to take a few minutes and look around at the garage. As I said in the previous video, I'm not a huge fan of the cold, and there's really not that much that I really want to do outside during the winter. However, the garage is the next big project that I want to deal with. I need a space where I can come and lock up tools and lock up equipment, and a place that I can finish and begin the rest of the work that needs to be done on the buildings of this farm. This garage, though, is in rough shape. There's a whole lot of stuff inside that needs to be cleared out. The roof is a mess. It's like Swiss cheese. There's holes all through the roof. There's holes through the walls. And there's framing issues. But what I really wanted to do today is try out a couple apps on my iPhone. I have both an Android phone and an iPhone. The iPhone has a LiDAR system on it, and there's a whole bunch of apps that you can use that make use of the LiDAR for construction type measurement. So I wanted to see how accurate this was. This particular app, you simply pick a point on one end of the building and then find the endpoint on the other side of the building, and it's supposed to give you a reasonably accurate measurement down to 1/8 of an inch. So this measured 25 feet 3 1/8 inches. Now the back side of my garage, I went from one edge, one lower corner, all the way back over to the other side, and it's saying that the back of my garage is about 20 feet 6 inches wide. The last thing I wanted to do is try and take a top-down measurement from the peak of the roof all the way down to the base. So I picked an area at the peak and I set it as a starting point, came all the way down, and it's telling me that my garage is roughly 12 feet high. I don't know if I believe this or how accurate it is, so I'm going to come through and actually do formal measurements. But I decided to take a couple pictures and I tossed them in Photoshop to try and get an idea of a before and an after of what I'm going for. Now I know people are going to complain, there's no barn wood, this looks very modern, and there's a lot of reasons why I would like to do some kind of permanent siding instead of barn wood. This is kind of a retirement project. Someday I'll be retired and I won't want to do painting. So we're going to address this more in a later video. But for now, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.